Hatsy and welcome to part 2 of Alderwell Estate. So this is going to be the whole interior for the build and I had to edit it a little bit, so if you're wondering why it's not from the very beginning, from like when I'm putting in the walls and stuff, that's the reason. We were heading for an hour 15-minute video. I can't talk for that long and I doubt anyone can listen to me for that long. So I thought 45 minutes is a reasonable amount, so I cut it as much as possible. So anyway, I wasn't sure when I'd be sharing the interior of the build and I usually update my stuff on Twitter. So in case you're wondering, the links and stuff will be below because I do usually update it, and I don't know, if you're wondering like when I'm going to be posting the inside of something, it's usually just easier to like look on Twitter rather than like ask me on a video because I usually just post on there. But also, what else is in the description is a link to my sister's best friend's like competition. My sister's been like doing a competition at the moment and she's like helping a friend with it. She made a YouTube video and stuff for it and she's trying to get votes on Facebook. So it takes like 5 seconds. You just have to like click vote. It won't share anything to your profile or anything like that. So yeah, if anyone has Facebook, if you have 5 seconds free, then please go and do it because it would make my sister's day and also it would make me have a very pleasant new year because otherwise I'd have a very grumpy sister. So anyway though, to the build, I got really inspired by several just different buildings that I saw online. And something that I love doing is looking at walkthrough tours online. Now, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but like for a lot of the really famous buildings, for instance, number 10, Downing Street, Buckingham Palace, I think the White House as well might have this, but you can actually look inside and do like a virtual tour of it. I'm obsessed with that. So I actually found that out because I went on a trip to Alton Towers and Alton Towers do it and they offer it on the website. And that's what I thought. I wonder if like virtual tours are available, but for actual buildings, and it turned out that they actually were. So that was a surprise. But yeah, so pretty interesting stuff. So I got a lot of inspiration just by looking at virtual tour things. But I didn't get any inspiration from Alton Towers. No. I stayed at Alton Towers when I was like 14 years old and it was actually a really weird experience because, okay, so one of my best friends at the time, we shall call her Claire, I guess, because I don't want to use a real name. But I remember that I used to look at Claire and I used to think she has such a perfect life. Oh my goodness, I want that girl's life. Because I went round to her house one time and this amazed me, but she pulled out a box that was underneath her bed and it had £500 worth of Bobbi Brown makeup brushes. And I really wanted like Bobbi Brown makeup brushes at the time. So I begged my parents and they're like, no, you are absolutely not getting that because there were so many and they were like legitimate brushes. But anyway, so Claire was really fortunate. And for a 14th birthday party, I think it was a 14th, her mum said that she could invite, I think it was like 6 friends to Alton Towers. So we were online and we found out that you could do these like virtual tours of the hotel room and we were amazed. Like the hotel suite that we had was just phenomenal. So on arrival, we arrived at Alton Towers and we noticed that Claire had her own parking space. Not that she could drive or anything because she was like 14, but her mum parked in this driving spot and it said Claire's like full name and we were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, it was like, welcome on board, I hope you have a really pleasant stay. It was just like way over the top. To have your own parking space with your name above it, I don't know, that really impressed us being like 14-year-old kids. So we got to the room and the room was incredible. It was just how we saw it on the virtual tours. It was amazing. But the only really weird thing about it was every time we went in the bathroom, there'd be this really old, creepy man's voice saying, I hope you have a pleasant night's sleep. So I really hope they took that out because that really frightened us like every time. Nobody wanted to close the bathroom door after that. And it was just an overall very odd experience. But I think we had more guests in the room than we were allowed. So there was about 6 of us, but I think the limit was like 4 or 5, I think. So we were a little bit over, and I think that if we'd like got found out, then we would have probably got consequences for it. Like maybe we would have got thrown out the hotel. I don't know, but we were over the limit. So we were really conscious about being in this room. But one of the things that I do remember from the virtual tour online was the fact that it said the room was soundproof, which amazed us because the whole trip there, because like Alton Towers was like 2.5 hours from where I lived at the time. So the whole way there, We were sat in the car, all of us, and we were thinking, do you know, this weekend is going to be about making as much noise as we want. Because we often got told off at school for like making too much noise. So we set off thinking, we are going to have a blast. We are going to just make as much noise. We're going to have fun. It's going to be fantastic. We're in a soundproof room. So none of us really knew what that meant, apart from the fact that, well, of course, it would be soundproof. That's what we just assumed. It even said specifically on the website that they put special tissue or something inside the wall to make it so that no sound would reflect out of the walls. So we got there and we put our bags down and I don't know, we had a nice night. And when it came to going to bed, we decided that we wouldn't go to bed. We would actually play Murder in the Dark. Now, I was always the loudest one in my group. I'm not going to lie to anyone. I was a very loud child. I still am. I'm pretty loud. Like when I go out in public, I can't help it. I'm quite loud to be around. And they all thought it'd be a really great idea if I was the murderer. So I was catching people in the dark. So we were going crazy. There was like 6 of us. We were knocking over ice buckets. We were just like screaming at the top of our voices and it was just insane. So after about 15 minutes of this, there's a really faint knock at the door and all of us just freeze. So the voice finally spoke and it turned out that it was a manager and he said, "This is the manager, open the door now." And he sounded so angry and we were freaking out. We were thinking, oh my gosh, we can't answer the door. So we had like a group discussion in the middle of the room deciding like what would happen next. And one of the girls was like pretty close to the door at the time. So she checked under it. She actually bent down, looked under, and she couldn't see any feet there. So she whispered to us, she said, "I think he's gone." And all of a sudden we had another voice saying, "No, I haven't. This is the manager. Open your door now." And he was so angry. So yeah, we had to answer the door after this horrible fiasco of like almost being in tears, thinking our parents are going to get called. We were shaking. Like we had a group discussion in the middle of the room to decide who would answer the door and what would happen next. And a lot of people tried to get me to answer the door to the manager. But I stood my ground. I was like, hang on a second. You all opted me in to be the murderer in Murder of the Dark, which you all know is the least fun job to do. And now you're all saying that I've got to answer the door to a manager. Absolutely not. Even though I was making the most noise, but I stood my ground. So I think it was Belle, my best friend, in the end, who ended up getting the short straw and answering the door. He was shouting at us. He said that he could hear us from 4 floors down. But the thing is, it said soundproof. It actually said soundproof though. I mean, the thing is, we didn't say anything the next day because we were too just petrified of saying to the parents like what had actually happened. So we didn't. We just stayed really quiet and we just hoped that the manager wouldn't tell on us because that was like the ultimate fear because we knew that, you know, we'd be going to Alton Towers the next day. We'd be going on the roller coasters. We didn't want just anything holding us back. And if anything was going to hold us back, it was parents. So we decided we wouldn't say anything and we just keep really quiet. But yeah, so anyway, looking back though, because no parents found out about it luckily. But how bad is that though? It said soundproof and okay, maybe we shouldn't have been making that much noise and I won't lie to you. If you were sharing a hotel with me at that point or you were in maybe one of the floors like below me or above me, yeah, you would have been able to hear like us in the room. But still, it did advertise as soundproof. So there we go. So that's my story about that. I mean, I loved that trip though. It was really good. And no, it was a shame because I actually moved school shortly after that. So that was like one of my last experiences with my group of friends. But no, at the time, I went through some really bad phases as well. I went through a horrible phase when I was younger of wearing hair extensions and they weren't real, okay? They were fake, which sort of makes them look even worse because at least real ones look quite nice sometimes. No, these fake ones, I had to buy them, like re-buy them every 6 weeks or so because they just looked awful. And something that I realised as well is the fact that because I was very young, a lot of people would take advantage of me. So even like being 14 or 15 when this girl's birthday party happened, like that's around about the time when I started getting into these hair extensions and I started wearing them. So I went to the shop. They didn't have any brown colour because my hair's brown. And I ended up buying bleach blonde hair extensions because they didn't have my colour. But of course, every single employee in the shop was just like egging me on. They were like, oh, that really suits you. You're gonna look amazing in those. And I bet as soon as I went, they were just laughing at me. It was just the worst thing ever. But yeah, I always used to get pressured into buying stuff by just like random people. And that was probably one of my biggest faults, I guess. I've stepped out of it now because I won't give in to that sort of stuff. You know, if I go to a shop and someone tells me something looks nice on me, I always ask for a second opinion, whether it's like my husband, my mum, one of my friends, just depending on who I'm with. But I'll never buy anything just because someone says it looks nice, because honestly, I've had some really bad experiences. So I think one of my other experiences was the fact that when I went to New York, this was when I was with the same school as well, so same group of friends and everything. It was just like a small school. It was in the area, so it was like really local, and it just made sense for me to go because it was like 5 minutes from my house. That's why I went. But it was funded by the parents. And anyway, we went to the shop. I can't remember what it's called, but it sells those big brown bags. So you may know it, but like everyone's walking around with those big brown bags. Bags? Because it's like a big brown bag on a bag, if that makes sense. Yes, it does make sense. So most people in New York have probably heard of it, but that's where I went. And they have a gigantic makeup stall, and I was very excited to go. So we went to this shop and there were just these huge makeup stands, and it was really, really glamorous, and everybody wanted a makeover. And there was like 40 of us at the time, so it wasn't a small group. There were like teachers there, and it was, you know, we all split off into groups, etc. And everybody was competing to get a makeover at one of these stands because it was a huge deal at the school to wear makeup. For some reason, I don't know, but all the older girls were doing it, so us younger girls thought we've got to do it too. So we ran to these stores and we were just like asking around for a makeover. And a lot of the stores were doing them for free, which was really nice. And I think that I ended up at Clarins, I don't know what it's pronounced as, but I ended up there by myself. I don't know how I split up from the group, but I did. And there was this staff member there, and she was like obviously trying to sell people things, but it was a very empty day. There were like no other customers there apart from me just looking at the products. And I asked her really politely. I just said, excuse me, I don't know if this stall offers makeovers, but if you do, I would really love one. All my friends are getting them, and that would be amazing. Or something like that. I don't know. It was a really polite message. It was really polite what I said to her. And she said in the snottiest voice to me, absolutely not. We do not offer makeovers here. So I was like, okay, fine. And I walked off, and that's when she caught me back up and she grabbed my arm. No, this is absolutely no joke. She grabbed my arm and she said, wait a second. We do offer makeovers here if you pay $40 on our products. So that was obviously a deal that she made up just on the spot. I mean, it didn't say anywhere about this, and she obviously just did it to get sales, because a lot of these makeup stands work in the way that you sell people stuff, you get a percentage, and that is a lot of the income of the job. And the only reason I know that is because I did beauty therapy at college, and I nearly worked for a company in the Bullring, which is in Birmingham. And that's like around the area that I used to live. So yeah, after doing that, that's what I wanted to do. And then when going to these interviews, they explained it in a way that you get like a percentage from the offers. And that's when I clicked. I was thinking, this woman all along, she was absolutely horrible. I didn't want to. And I just said, I don't know if I've got enough money for that. And I did have my purse in my hand at the time, and my purse was open, and she looked in my purse. She actually looked in it, and she said, well, I can see that you've got enough, so why don't you just come over here? Like, that's actually what she said to me. That's just so unprofessional. So anyway, she pretty much just like leads me. And when I say lead, I mean, in inverted commas, drags me to the stall to have a makeover. And I had to buy $40 worth of makeup that I didn't want. Even worse, the people that I was sharing a room with actually took the makeup themselves, and they never gave it back to me. So the people that I shared a room with actually stole it. So it was a very strange story to explain to my parents when I got home, to explain that the woman forced me into buying makeup products that I didn't want, and then my classmates stole them. I didn't know where to put myself. So yeah, that was my really bad New York experience. I did love New York though. It was a really beautiful place to go. I think one of my favorite things was the fact that everything's in blocks, as strange as that sounds. I know that probably some people in New York are going to be like rolling their eyes at me now and thinking, well, yeah, everything is blocks. You have like blocks of buildings and you travel to the next block. I don't know how it works, but that really amazed me because in England, everything is just very narrow and very small and there are no blocks there. I mean, not in my experience. Maybe London's more similar in the way that you do have a similar sort of thing. You have like squares in London, that sort of idea as far as I'm aware. I don't travel to London a lot, but that's what my experience was of New York, and that was also my experience of London. But anyway though, back to the builds. Oh my gosh, 20 minutes of just like talking about my stories and stuff. That's insane. Okay, so we were still on the downstairs floor, and I think that I use like winter products in the house as well. So you may see some like frozen trees, stuff like that, but I don't know, I thought it looked pretty good. There were a lot of rooms to go round though. And something that I'm really worried about with this particular build is the fact that I may have not have done the rooms in order. So I hope that I have, because that would be an absolute nightmare if I haven't done it. And maybe I've like messed up the videos because, okay, my videos are really messed up for some reason. I record off a program called Action, and for some reason, my videos just muddle themselves up. They're never in order, because usually like when you record a video and then you record one after, it should stay in that order. No. I have to like randomly select them, but it's so hard because I pre-record most of my videos. So when I'm looking through my catalogue, oh my goodness, I have to go through like, I'm going to say 50 videos just because I've got so many. I've got so many builds, but I'm trying to get rid of them, as bad as that sounds. I'm trying to just get them out there. So you'll notice builds coming up on the channel. I'm also trying to stay on top of like the series that I'm doing, as well as sharing all the mansions that I've made for the new series. So yeah. Going on to the series though, something interesting that I haven't spoken about yet, that I'm hopefully going to be speaking about in multiple videos, so you may get bored of hearing me say this, but this is the first time I'm going to mention it. So, I have an idea for the girls. In fact, I've already shared the idea, but some people have caught on, like with the trailer that I shared of Calliwell Estate, is the fact that Beatrice's life seems very similar to Belle out of Beauty and the Beast's life, in the way that she wears the yellow dress. A few more hints in the series. So just something briefly that I'm going to mention, I'm not going to be mentioning like that much because I do want people to guess it as well, is the fact that the girls are all inspired by Disney characters, not necessarily looks wise, but very much in their personalities, and not the direct storylines either. Some things will be different, some things will be a little bit more detailed than Disney stories, because a lot of Disney stories are just, you know, like a girl meets a prince, gets married. I hate that, by the way. I actually hate that because it's just such a bad thing for just kids to look at. So I'm so glad that they're sort of trying to step out of that and create situations which may be a little bit different, rather than something like Snow White, even though I love it, falling in love at first sight. How many times does that happen to people? But then again, it happened to me. I actually fell in love at first sight, and I don't share that a lot, but I think it makes me sound really strange though. But I knew that as soon as I met my husband, I would marry him. And he said to me after a week of dating, like, that we would get married. I mean, not then, but he said that if we were together in a year's time after we started dating, then he would propose, which he did. He did, but not necessarily a year after. I think it was more like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after. So yeah, there was that. So the girls are going to be just inspired by characters that I like, and you can guess along the way which ones you think that they are, but there will just be like little hints, I guess, put into the storyline of that. So that will hopefully be pretty interesting, and I'm excited to share that. But going back to when James and I first met, it was really odd because I try not to share it as well, because I don't want it to like link back to him in any way. I try and keep him pretty separate from my videos and stuff. And a lot of the reason why he hasn't been on the channel that much yet, if not at all, I don't know, maybe he's been like on one video or something, but it's because of his job. But hopefully in the future, we will do some videos together and stuff like that. But we met in Switzerland, and a lot of people think that I met him in England and maybe we were dating before, but no. Strange thing is, I lived 40 minutes away from him when I lived in England, but we never met. So we may have actually unintentionally met at times, because there were times when we used to go to the same events, but we didn't know each other were there, and we only found out like when we actually met. For instance, he used to go to the Birmingham Christmas market, and that was something that I do every single year. So that was nice, but I didn't see him there. I mean, there's loads of people. If you've ever been to it, there's like thousands of people. So chances were very slim that I would have seen him, and even if I did, it just wouldn't have been the right time anyway. That happened. But no, we met in Switzerland, and we met at a bar. Really strangely, I wasn't drinking or anything, and he didn't either, but we were surrounded by very strange people. And on the night of meeting him, he spoke to my sister for the whole entire night, and I didn't get to speak to him a lot. He wasn't flirting with her or anything like that. They were just talking because it just so happened that he works for the same company as my dad. So that was really awkward bringing him home for the first time. I'll always remember the look on my dad's face when he first saw that I brought James back home with me, because he was just in a very strange, tense mood. So that happened. But no, on the night that we met, there was this guy that wouldn't leave me alone. I can't even remember his name. It was something like Marvin or something. But I actually saw him again like several times after that. But he spent the whole night just trying to talk to me, and I did everything to avoid him. Just everything. I was trying to move away from him. I was trying to ignore him in a polite way. If that's a thing, I would have done it if that was a polite thing. I don't know if you can ignore someone but in a polite way, but I tried. I actually tried. But yeah, Marvin kept saying to me that he wanted to couch surf at my house. And it was really strange because I've never done anything like that before. I would never invite a stranger into my house to couch surf. And apparently it's like a proper thing. I don't know, it's like a proper term in Switzerland where you actually like sleep on someone's couch for free. I would not be inviting Marvin into my house for free. Thank you very much. I wouldn't even be inviting him in at all. I mean, so that was really odd. But yeah, that's how I met my husband. We met at a bar and we just got talking. But I actually got his number like straight after I met him. I think I got it from my sister eventually. I started texting him. And then we met up the night after. So that is what happened. Really odd, but I sort of knew who he was, so it was safe because obviously my dad knew him. And yeah, we went out. So going back to the build, I was on the second floor at this point. I have skipped like a lot of the interior, but to be honest, I don't like going over it too much in the interior build because I do repeat a lot of the stuff. And that is just because we don't get many objects with The Sims 4. And I don't think we'll ever get a colour wheel. I am very doubtful. But that is my issue. So a lot of the rooms, like a lot of the pink rooms, are very similar to Calliwell Estate. So it's sort of pointless telling you what they are, especially as they're really just bedrooms for the sake of being bedrooms. Like there's only one person that's going to live here, and that's the Earl himself. But to be fair, maybe this room here that we're decorating would be for his fiancée Annika, because he's actually engaged by the time that we meet him, and Annika is going to be his fiancée, but she's a duchess, so she's a few ranks above him. But a lot of the rooms do look similar to the Calliwell mansion, and also just drawing attention to the fact that they do look a little bit similar to Calliwell Estate. One of the bedrooms is going to be very similar to Beatrice's room, and if we ever use that room in the Let's Play, that's going to be the room that she'll stay in. Just because it's just so similar to her room at home. Maybe he's decorated it purposefully in that way. Because, I don't know, I like to look too much into the storylines at this point. I like to think, actually, yeah, like that could happen. Maybe he is so in love with her, he would want her to feel really at home while she's here. He's got the money. You know, maybe like in their relationship in the past, maybe he did that. Because it's going to be very obvious that they have had a relationship. Now, one thing that I really loved about city living is the fact that we get those fur rugs. I love that fur rug so much. Even the colour of it. Okay, not necessarily the colour actually, because the colour looks really bad. But that would be just an incredible colour to use for a werewolf house. I don't even know why that struck my mind, but I don't know. That just like fur colour, I think it would be great in like a really wooden shack of a house. So maybe that will come in handy. Maybe I'll have to like have one for the series or something. Because yes, there will be a bit of supernatural stuff in the series that I will be putting in. But not too much, because I want to balance it as well. I've already like overplayed the supernatural thing with Let's Play Witches. So I don't want that to be the crossover of the series. Because maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but I do cross over my Let's Plays. I made Let's Play Witches link with the pomegranates in some way. I don't want to do that. I don't want the supernatural thing to be the link. It may be the link and I may change my mind, but as of now, that's not what I want it to be. So this room in here was decorated before we got the new stuff pack, the vintage glamour stuff. So it is a dressing table that I made myself. So maybe this would be great for a build to download for anybody that doesn't want to buy the stuff pack, because you could have a room like this and it would be a great room to have. You know, you could have it for your own builds, or you could use these ideas and they would work just as well. So if you don't want to get the vintage glamour stuff, then you could just do that. Now, I don't know if the mirror will work, but you could definitely sit the sim down at the table and everything will work just as you see it, which I really like the idea about. And to be fair, it's not actually that far off with what we get in the stuff pack to begin with. Now, I love the stuff pack, and to be honest with you all, it's probably my favourite stuff pack out of all the stuff packs so far. I think, along with romantic garden stuff, just because that was really nice with the plants and things that we got. But no, I really like the fact that they've started to put gameplay features in, because when I went to Gamescom with the group of YouTubers, because like there were a few of us there, I think there was like 10 of us there or something. By the way, it was incredible. I loved it there. I wish I could go back. They were explaining about what goes into the stuff packs, game packs, expansion packs. I'm allowed to talk about it now because a lot of the information has been shared. I think pretty much all the information from the event has already been shared. It was explained in like loose words that a stuff pack would be just for things, just for items. Game packs would be for gameplay items, but just not as much as you would get with an expansion pack. And of course, expansion packs would just be everything in between. So it's really nice to see that they're stepping up the stuff packs and actually putting in gameplay items, because there were so many stuff packs at one point. Well, there obviously still are, but when they were bringing out just stuff packs and just more packs and then repeating packs, like we've got the garden stuff, then we got some more garden stuff. Same with the kitchen stuff. I think we got some repeat stuff with that. Everything just started to overlap. So it's really nice the fact that we're getting some gameplay items with it. And I hope they carry on with that, because I love the idea of having a butler. That's just incredible to me. So I was very excited about that. And something that I really like about the butler is you don't have to control them. And I also love the fact that they walk around the house just like running their finger across surfaces and just looking at it. I love that so much. It's just so great. I don't know, I've never seen anybody do that in my life. I have seen really stuck up staff like at restaurants and stuff, but I've never seen anybody behave in that way. But I actually used to go to a very stuck up restaurant when I was younger. I can't find another word for it though, but it was incredible. It was such a good restaurant. And what I loved about it as well is the fact that you could order anything there and they would try their best to do it. Because I went through a very awkward stage when I was younger and I would only eat really basic things. And the restaurant was really great in the way that it would give options for you to have anything. As long as they had it in, they would cook you anything you wanted. And that was brilliant. I mean, of course they had a menu, and to be honest, the menu was just full of like steaks and stuff. But I've never been like a really big meat eater. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I'm a vegetarian, because I'm not. I did lie once when I was like 9 years old that I was a vegetarian at someone's house because I didn't like what they were serving, and then it was really awkward when my parents picked me up from the house and then the woman said, well, I'm really sorry, I served your daughter meat and I've just found out that she's a vegetarian. And then my mum said, no, she's not. That was very awkward. But no, I'll probably mention that another time because there's a bit more to it than that. But no, so going back to this restaurant though, I never used to want what was on the menu. So I asked for beans on toast, I think it was like a really basic meal. And they served it. They actually made it and they were fine with that. But what they did do though is they overcharged so much for it. They made us pay like £40 just for me to have that meal. That is incredibly expensive, seeing as the ingredients would have been what, like 50 pence together, if that. So to charge £40 for it is just absolutely insane. But we had like a few arguments with that restaurant. I think that the big problem was that the waiters were very argumentative, and there was one man that served water, I remember him, and he would actually just like walk around, he would have his like nose stuck up in the air, and he would have his like towel on his arm and stuff, and he would just be very pretentious and he wouldn't want to speak to anybody, because I genuinely feel like he felt like he was above a lot of people there. And one time I think my mum said that her food was like overdone or something. And she said it in a really nice way, because my mum is not argumentative whatsoever, and she was really just nice about it. And he turned around to her and he pretty much said that that's because she's never experienced proper food before. How offensive is that though? So yeah, I can imagine the butlers just doing really similar things in The Sims 4. Maybe they'd be a bit politer because they'd probably lose their job if they did anything like that. But speaking of bad butlers though, we're gonna have a bad maid in the Let's Play. So I actually decided that when filming the part. Yes, it's really strange that I'm doing the voiceover for this build after I filmed the first 2 parts of Calliwell Estate. It's really odd. But yeah, we're going to have like a bad maid in it, and she's just not going to do her jobs whatsoever. So you'll find her in it, hopefully, and that's going to be great. I feel like she's going to have a bigger role in it, like as time goes on. Maybe she doesn't like to the beginning, but she's just going to cause so much havoc for the house. And I guess that maybe she's a little bit inspired by the Maid in Downton Abbey. Now, I actually stopped watching Downton Abbey, I think after, I don't want to say it because it's just going to give too much away. If you're thinking of watching it, then if I tell this part, you just know, absolutely I can't. I stopped watching it after like the first few seasons, something like that. And the reason why is because it got boring for me. And I used to love it. I really loved Mary. She was my favourite character, and I loved the relationship that she had with Matthew all the way through. But the problem was, just during the seasons, just after the whole dramatic stuff happened, no, I fell out of love with it. But there was a maid in the series, and she was fantastic. She was the one that wore black, and she was the maid for the mum, and she was horrible. She told so many lies, and she did so much bad stuff, and she was a really bad character. But I feel like she turned better in the end, or at least from where I watched it up to, she seemed to redeem herself a bit, even though the stuff that she did wasn't really redeemable, in my opinion. So that was pretty interesting. So I think that the Maid is going to be a little bit like that. It's not going to be too dark. I've tried to be very careful and put very light storylines on everything and try and not make it too dark, because I know that a lot of people that do Let's Plays, that also do stories in machinimas, do like to make their stuff very dark. I don't like to do that because I feel like with a younger audience as well, I mean, I want everybody to be able to watch it. So I'm not going to be putting in stuff like really morbid deaths. There will be a few deaths, and don't get me wrong, murder isn't out the question here. What I mean is, I'm not going to put in like dark health issues or anything like that, or I don't know, just stuff that I wouldn't want in the series. I don't mind when other people do it, and you know, sometimes it's really nice to be able to include that stuff in for people that are going through that stuff, but I also want to keep it really positive, and there's already a lot going on. So I think we're on to the last rooms of the build, and we just have done the 3rd floor. I was trying to correct the outside as well, because I had a problem with when I was painting just the rooms, a lot of the outside was getting changed. Maybe that happens with big builds. I can imagine that that would be a problem. I don't know. But this here is supposed to be the Earl's room where he would take his friends. My voice is going really croaky, if you can tell. By the way, my voice often goes croaky. I swear my voice is like breaking all the time. But I used to get ill in Germany. I don't get as ill being in England as I have with Germany. And I genuinely think it was the water. Not the German water, but I think that the place that I was like having water from, the farm area, I just don't feel like that water was right. There was something wrong with it. And also my dogs just kept getting ill. And in the end, I had to give them bottled water because it was that bad. So yeah, anyway, this is going to be the Earl's. That was not a happy thing to say. This was the Earl's room though, where he would take his friends. And there's some fish hanging up. I like to think they're fake though, because those fish, it doesn't make sense to me that fish would hang up on the wall. They would be fake. Surely they would be fake. I don't know. I have no idea. I went to a really strange hotel once that was just like obsessed with hanging stuff up on the wall. Now there's like a big story about this hotel because it's like a very serious story, and somebody very, very bad stayed there. But I actually want to make a separate story time on it and do like a face cam and stuff for it, because I want to explain it, because it was a pretty bad hotel. They had stuff hanging up all over the place, and I just remember feeling petrified like when I walked up the hallways, because there were no other hotels to stay in around the area, but they just hung stuff up. But it makes me really sad to see stuff like that. The Sims have always included stuff like that though, and I do love it, and I also hate it. Because I remember for The Sims 2, they had like a lion that was a rug, and that used to be just like a really morbid thing for me to put in the house. I used to use it as a child. Like I used to use it when I played the game when I was like 8 years old. Maybe it was The Sims 1 actually that had that. I can't remember. But one of them did. And yeah, I used it, but I wasn't a fan of using it. I felt guilty every time I used it. But yeah, they do put in stuff like that. But I think it's okay because, like, you know, it's a virtual game. So we've got a few rooms down here. I can't remember if I showed you the wine room, but the wine room is a place where they're going to sit and they're going to wine taste stuff. It does look a little bit modern, but I couldn't do anything else with it. So that's how I left it. And I think apart from that, we were on to the last little bits of the rooms. I did cut out some of that bedroom just because I just wasn't that keen on it. It wasn't my best moment in The Sims. By the way though, if you do have a favourite room that I've done in the past, then I would love to know what you've enjoyed. Have you enjoyed like a certain room that I've done, or a certain interior that I've done on a build? Because that really helps me for future builds. So yeah, let me know in the comments. So anyway, in here, this is supposed to be the haircutting room. It may sound very odd when I say it out loud, but I just distinctly remember every single time I've watched something from the 1800s era, people tend to have their haircut at home. What is that? I don't know. But I thought I would include it anyway, just as a really random last room because I was running out of ideas. Anyway though, that is the end of the build. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.